Go to the keyframe on the right, the last keyframe on the right. Okay, good.
Okay.
Now, before you click, look for the Alt key on your keyboard. Alt, just
Okay.
beside your space bar. Hold that Alt down. Have you held it down?
Yes.
When you hold it down, then you click and drag towards the left. Okay. Do you see what's happening? Can you explain what's happening? It's okay. It's fine.
It shrinks the keyframes to lesser time, reduce time.
Yes. Now, what's happening is that all the keyframes are selected. You held your Alt, you clicked the last keyframe on the right, and you drag. Now, it will reduce the timing from keyframe to keyframe simultaneously, accordingly, mathematically correctly. I don't know if I'm looking too much grammar here, right? Rather than you just picking one keyframe and drag backwards, pick another one, drag backward, pick another one, drag backward, so you waste a lot of time. So the animation would play exactly the same way, but in a shorter time. In a shorter time. Unlike when you drag each keyframes one by one.
What time can you wait? It's 10. This way.
Sorry, please. Someone is talking in the background. I think you forgot your mic is unmuted.
Oh, sorry. I'm muting now. Sorry.
Thank you. So what that helps you achieve is to shrink your time, your keyframes into a smaller time. Now, unlike when you take each keyframes, you move them one by one backwards, you would see that, let's say, for example, you have 24 frames in between one keyframe to another frame, to another keyframe. Then you have another 12 frames in between the second keyframe and the third keyframe. Now, when you use the method I showed you now with the Alt, it scales the three keyframes equally, right? So let's say if you do the maths, let's say 24 keyframes, you scale it down to like 10 keyframes. That means 12 keyframes will have to actually scale down to maybe 5 keyframes. Sorry, 5 frames, right? 5 frames. So it balances. There's a balance. It just keeps that balance. But imagine you now take one of the keyframes, drag it back. Maybe the one for 24 frames, you drag it back, it gets to 10 frames. You take the other one, by that time, you already have extra space already created in between that keyframe you drag backward and the one ahead. So if there was 10 frames in between them, now you've increased it and you're dragging. So it becomes a very clumsy way to work and very tedious. So this is a method to shrink all keyframes the same time. I hope that's taken into account, right? So that's how to use your Alt, click and drag. So you select all the keyframes, you hold your Alt, you click the last keyframe and drag backwards to whatever time. So now you see your animation has shortened to at least, I think, maybe 4 seconds. So how do you zoom in? Let me show you the quickest way to, sorry, just use the word, basic way to zoom in, right? Now, your time ruler, go to your time ruler. Now, on your time ruler, just directly above it, there's a tiny gray line there. Yes. Okay. Now, if you check the two ends of that gray line, you see some like 2 blue handles. Okay. At the extreme right, there's a blue handle. At the extreme left, there's a blue handle. Can you see that?
Yeah, I remove this. Okay.
Sorry?
This,
Yes,
this,
that's it. Time navigator N. If you go to the beginning, you will see time navigator start. You see that? Now, go to the one on the right. you will see that your mouse changes its shape to double-headed arrows like pointing left and right. It means you can actually click and drag it backward. So click and drag. You see what's happening? So what you see there, it's shrinking. Sorry, it's increasing your time. So the smaller that thing becomes, the more you could, so it's like a zoom, the more you can see deeper into your timeline. So basically how it works is that when you stretch that thing to the end, it shows the whole timeline from beginning to end. But when you shrink it, it shows a fraction of your timeline covering the whole timeline space. So what you see exactly, right, is the size of 10 seconds, like what I'm seeing on your screen right now. So 10 seconds, that means that 10 seconds is actually that particular space that you have remaining on your time navigator there. I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay. So if anything gets you confused while I'm explaining this, feel free to just stop me on track and ask a question so that you don't forget and we don't just jump that, because other people will learn from that as well. Okay, so that's how to use a time navigator. Now, the fastest way to do that is to use your mouse roller, right? The middle click, you come to your timeline area. The timeline area, yes. When you hold down your Alt, is it Alt or Control? Hold down your Alt, then scroll up, scroll down. It doesn't work, try holding down Control. Okay. So what button do you use for that? Was it Control or Alt?
Alt.
Okay. Now you see what happened when you do that, it takes you to an unknown place. So you can't see your keyframes, right? Now, if you check your navigator at the top, your time navigator at the top. Now you can just at the middle, at the middle. Move your mouse to the middle, yeah. So you can click. No. I mean the time navigator in between, yeah. So click it and drag it to the left. Keep dragging it. You can see as you're dragging it, it's showing you the different fractions of your timeline. I'm in the class, please. I'll call you. No. I'll call you back. Okay. Sorry about that. That was just a quick call from someone. So where are we? Now you see how that works, right? Hello, Lucas, can you
Yes,
hear
yes,
me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So you see how that works, right? So that's how it works. Whenever you zoom in like that and you get lost, just use your time navigator bar, just drag it from, as if you're just holding a tiny object, drag it to the left, you get to where you want. You drag it to the right, drag it to the extreme left. So it just shows a fraction of your keyframe. So the smaller it becomes, the clearer or the wider your timeline appears. So the smaller that thing becomes, the wider your timeline appears and shows you a more streamlined section of your timeline, right? You can see those keyframes that you shrink. You can see that appearing like they're far apart. It's just because you kind of zoomed in. So that's what's happening there. That's what's happening there. Okay. Now, I'm glad you're able to do something like this. So let's try for scale. Working with scale. Now, on your scale, I can see 5.0 and 4.4. That means you must have scaled the football by clicking and dragging the object itself, which is on your viewport. Now, when you do that, the object will scale, in a very disproportional manner, right? It wouldn't be proportional. So how do you fix that? How do you fix that? You have to click on, if you come to the scale, just beside the numbers, you will see something like a chain on the right. Yes, like a chain. Now, that chain you see is linking the percentage, which is 4.4%, right? And the 5.0. Now, 5.0 controls the horizontal. The 4.4 side, which is the right side, controls the vertical. So you can separate the chain by clicking on it. So click on that chain. Now it goes off. Go to the 4.4, click on it. Just click again. Like you want to type, click within it. Yes. Now you type 5.0 on your keyboard, 5.0. Now, can you see your ball on your viewport? The ball on your viewport, the composition panel. Can you see the size has returned back to normal? So now it's 5.5. Now you could go back to where you had that chain, that empty box there beside the 5.0. Click on it. Now this links the size, the vertical and horizontal sizes again. Now you can, hover your mouse around any of the numbers. Just hover your mouse around any of the numbers there, 5.0. You could see the finger that appears, showing that you can just click and drag it. Click, drag to the left or to the right. To the left or to the right. Now you see when you move any of the numbers, they scale together. The numbers increase together. Now, because of the chain, right? Because of the chain, it's linking both numbers together. If you turn off that chain and you do the click and drag again, only the one you click and drag will increase. You can try that out and see. Now, do you see? The other one remains on 7. Now, look at how the ball has lost its form, the shape, right? So, this is what happens, and this is actually, sometimes you might want to use this kind of effect, to scale something down or to scale it up in whatever form you want. Remember that the chain is a linkage for vertical and horizontal percentage. Okay. So you can reset that. Now, how do you reset whenever maybe your settings have gone haywire? Just right click while you hover there, right click, right click, right. Now, you will see the reset option there. As the first option on the third level. Yes. You could click on it. Now, what happens? You see how the ball becomes 100, 100, comes back to 100, 100. So that's how to reset. Now, you could do the same thing for every other settings there, for the anchor points, for the position, scale, rotation, opacity, right? So you could do that for that. Okay. Now click on the chain to link both back and then scale down. Okay. All right, so I said we're going to animate the scale. Now come to frame 1, the beginning. That should be frame. No, on your time ruler, click on your frame. One, your time ruler above, yes. Good. Drag the pin to 0. Make sure it's on 0. Yes. Okay. Now we want to animate the scale. Now, how do we switch on the scale? How do we switch on the animation ability for scale? Do you remember?
This time,
Yes,
cool.
exactly. Thank you.
Should I switch it on?
Yes. Okay. Okay, I just noticed something now. You see one of your keyframes is already running out of the timeline for the position. So whenever you notice something like that, what you just do is, can you see the keyframe I'm talking about? The keyframe for your position, the first one, yeah. So click and drag it into frame 0. Just click and drag it. Yes, so it's in position now, so that's fine. Let's go back to our scale. Now we're on 7% on frame 0, right? So let's move further to the next keyframe where you have the position, the second keyframe. Just always use your timeline, your time ruler. Always, when I say go to frame this, use your time ruler, yes. Go to the next, any next position of your choice, anywhere. Okay, fine. Now, at this position, you can scale down or up, make your choice. You could scale down or up, maybe increase percentage to 10 or 20, or scale it down to 5 or 3, whichever one you want. Okay, fine. Go to the next frame of your choice. Okay, you could scale up. Okay, next frame of your choice. You scale down. Now, by the way, if you still want just continue. If you still want maybe your numbers to have, your scale to have a certain kind of, bounce or motion, or you want it to have a certain kind of similarity, you could always manually type in your numbers. Sometimes you might want to click and drag and it gives you the wrong numbers, right? So you might want to do 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3. You might want to do it like 10, 10, 2, 8, 4, 6, 5, right? Just to give it that blobby feeling, right? So now this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay. Now, at this stage, there's something else I'm going to show you. Okay, still on this timeline. Now, we've looked at the navigation bar, which is the top. So can you show me the navigation bar again? At the top of, yes, that's it. So that's the knob. The knob is the one that you're ignoring on the left there. So that's the whole time navigator bar. You could stretch it, you could shrink it, you could drag from the middle area of that particular knob or bar. You could just click and drag it and stretch, to whatever area of the time you want. Now, there is a time ruler. Okay, that's the time ruler. This is where you can control your time indicator pin. Okay, so your time ruler, that's where you can control your time. If you click any other place, your time indicator pin would not move. So that blue pin you see that shows you what frame you are or what time you are, that blue one, you control it on that time indicator pin. So you could drag it, you could click anywhere and just make it appear there. So that's how to control that. Yes. Now the next one is directly below it. Yes. Okay. Do you see that? Move your mouse here and yeah. It's supposed to show you the name. Time ruler.
Sure.
Kindly go up to the time ruler above. the same time ruler, yeah. So now you can see that they are connected, right? Now this is how it works. Do something for me, please. Your time navigator, right? That time navigator bar at the top. On the right side, click, drag it to the end on the right. To the right, yes. Drag it to the end. Make sure it gets to the end. Yes. So this is your whole timeline, everything. Okay. Now come back to the knob below that time ruler. That same bar below the time ruler. You could see it's similar to the one above. Yes. No, not your time indicator pin, not the pin. The bar itself, yes. So the time ruler, now, time ruler, you could see the same blue, I don't know, call it, yeah, on the left, on the right, it's there. Now, don't pull that one. Pull the one on the right, extreme right. Now, when you get there, when your mouse changes, you can now click and drag it. Okay, keep dragging it down. Okay, make sure it doesn't exceed the keyframes, please. Bring it to come above the ES. Fine. Now, what you just did, you reduced your work area based on the time you're working on. So now, even though you have 45 seconds in your whole timeline, but your working space for your timeline is now about maybe 3 seconds or 4 seconds. So now you can zoom in using your Alt, or you could drag your navigation bar. Let's see how many seconds you have there. You know how to zoom in using your Alt. No, don't click and drag. Just zoom in. Hold your Alt to zoom into your timeline. By the way, wherever you put your mouse, that's where the timeline will zoom into. So you can see that you brought your mouse into that space and it zoomed into that space. So be aware of that. Right. Now, how many seconds do we have? Page 25 frames. Did you zoom out a little bit? Just, yes, fine. Now, your navigation bar, drag it to the right so I can see your whole timeline. At the top, the navigation bar at the top, just drag it to the left. Yes. Okay, so we have about 3 seconds there, right? Okay, fine. Now, this is your work area. You could see the other areas are grayed out. You only have the place where you're working has a particular shade, while the rest of the timeline is kind of grayed out. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, hit your space bar. Just hit your space bar to play. Now, do you see that? When it gets to 3 seconds, it comes back to 0 and plays again. Okay? So now this is your work area. Now, why I'm showing you this is there's sometimes that you maybe you're done with your work and you want to export your animation and you're like, this thing is too long, 15 seconds, but my animation is just 3 seconds. So how do you do that? This is how you do it. You reduce your timeline using the time. There's a name. I always forget these names. Don't. Work area. Okay. You reduce your work area using that time, work area indicator like that. Just you shrink it down, and then you can export like this, or you could just right click wherever that place where your mouse is. You right click, you get the options. Can you see that? So we have 4 options: lift work area, extract work area, trim comp to work area, okay, or create protected region from work area. Now, what you want to click is the third option, trim composition, that's comp to work area. So when you do that, it cuts off the rest of the time, and then it leaves you with your 3 seconds exactly.
For what?
Hello, Mr. Lekon.
Yeah.
Your mic is unmuted, please. Okay. So I hope everybody's seen how this works. At this stage, if anybody has any question, you could ask. Then I'll show you something we could try. Then we'll go into today's class because I wanted this to just last for 45 minutes. Any questions, please? Do you have any question, Rukayat,
No, I don't.
concerning what we've looked at?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
This is Ayodele.
Okay,
Last week
go ahead,
I was
please.
yes, last week I was able to open my Adobe After Effects, but today now I'm trying to open it. Is giving me you can't verify your subscription status. I was like, what is the of subscription? I'm able. You understand? I don't know. It's giving me so I
Oh, you
don't
were
know
able,
what
you
to.
were able to work with it last week.
Yes, I was able to use it last week while during the class session. So this today now I'm trying to open it and it's giving me subscription status that you can't verify your subscription status. Is it? I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that
You must have,
I have to use
you
internet.
must, yeah, you must have maybe connected with your internet or something went wrong somewhere. There are ways to solve that issue, but it won't be solved in this class, right? Maybe
No
after the class, we'll look at it.
problem.
Right, after class, we'll look at it.
But at the same time, okay, don't worry. Okay, I think I'm on the page. But when after the class, we can talk about it.
All right. Okay. Tutorial. Any other question from anybody? Any question from anybody? No question. I go ahead. Okay, can you stop sharing your screen, please? So I'll share mine. Thank you. Just a moment. Okay. Now, can you all see my screen? If you can see my screen, you could just type maybe yes or one, anything on the chat box. So I'll be sure about that. Okay. Okay. So, I wanted to show you how you could work with Adobe Illustrator today. Then after that, it will be good that we give everyone a task to perform, very simple task, not complex at all, not complex. I want to show you this website. Now, this link will be shared. This link will be shared. Now, I'm very much aware that, different people here would make use of maybe different software, maybe Lumion or AutoCAD, export certain files, maybe as JPEG, or as vector files, or convert them to EPS, encapsulated PostScript, or to Adobe Illustrator formats, whatever vector formats. So, I mean, I don't make use of the softwares that you guys might be using for your works, but always make sure that if you're going to use any of the images or pictures from the software, make sure they are converted into vector files like EPS or whatever vector file that you can export as. But when you want to open that particular file, you right click and open as Adobe Illustrator. Right click and open as Adobe Illustrator. So use Adobe Illustrator for, whatever little or extra edits you want to do to it. So you could then finally import that into After Effects to then do your, your motion graphics on that image, right? So I will show you how the workflow from Adobe Illustrator works by simply using this one as an example. So this website, I'll share this link. I think this is it. Copy and paste it in the chat. Now I could just this is free, by the way. There are premium versions, but I already shown you how it works. So to download, just download simply into any folder of your choice. Whatever folder you have your work files in, or folder you're working from, just download the file there. What's that? Okay. So I have downloaded my file. I shared the link to that particular file. I'm going to be making use of that file. Okay, I'm going to make use of that file. So I have it downloaded and it's zipped. It's zipped. Just maybe right click and say, extract all, or with the latest Windows, you just click on it and say extract all right here. Extract. It just says the same directory. You open the file. So you can see the EPS. So it comes, this is encapsulated PostScript EPS file. If you're exporting from whatever software you're working on and you want to export, you can export as a PNG file, a JPEG file, or even a vector file. Some people work with Photoshop, but I work with Illustrator. Photoshop makes work very heavy for me. Right? I have a different workflow where I use Photoshop, but Photoshop with a different software, not with After Effects. So you have this file like that. So everything is separate here. If you want, you could edit whatever you want to edit. Okay. So I'll show you how I edit and arrange some of these files. Okay. I'll show you how I edit and arrange some of these files. So kindly watch me very closely. This is not an Adobe Illustrator class, but I just want to show you a few things. Now, the first thing is I want to take off this particular watermark, and we have all our layers here. All the layers for a design here. All the layers are here. So I just want to take this design by FreePik. I don't want that to appear in my animation. I just drag it maybe to delete down here. Right. Another way to do that is to select the object and hit your delete. Yes, to delete that. So now we have a padlock here. It means we are locking the background, so it's not selectable. I can't click and select, but for this, I can click and select it. The object, the drawing itself, I can click and select. The background is white. I only turn off the eye. So I think the background is just a shape, which is this white shape here. Okay. I don't think that's needed or necessary. So it's just there as just for it to be there. Okay. So basic editing, right? Basic editing. Now, every layer you see here is like a group. And how do you know this is a group? You see a drop down arrow here. If I click on it, just like in After Effects, you click, it drops down. You click, it drops down. Click, it drops down. So you keep seeing the drop down arrow and you see the multiple shapes that was used, hundreds of layers, multiple shapes that was used in creating everything. Now, you don't need to give yourself a headache about this, except you want to, going into edits one by one. I'm going to show you how to do that if you want to, right? You have these multiple layers. Okay, basically, I just want to delete this particular name, right? When I select that, I can see the name here. Okay, whatever I select here, just at the extreme right of the layers panel, you will see selected on your art board. So we call this art board, but in After Effects, we call it viewport. Art board, viewport. So this is the art board, where you have your, so as I select here, you can see it being selected on the art board screen. Okay. So I don't want all those names. I want to change them to maybe names of streets in Nigeria or in Lagos. So what I'm going to do is, there are two basic tools here for selection. There's a direct selection tool. Your toolbar, by the way, is on the left side of the screen. We have the direct selection tool. We have the normal selection tool. Now, this normal selection tool selects, a whole object like this. You click on this, for example, and I'm moving this whole thing, right? By the way, undo, Control Z. So, but if I want to do a single selection, I use direct selection tool. It's different in color, it's white. When I come here, I click, it doesn't select everything, it selects only that particular object I clicked on. And then I can always click any of the anchor points, or these anchor points. I could always click any of them and drag, okay, to edit the size. Okay, that's actually has a mask in there. So that, okay, I move this away, you can see it has a masking. That's a masking, right? We're not in the Adobe Illustrator class, so I won't be delving too deep on that. So it's basically a masking, but I can, maybe let me look for an example that would respond to me, because sometimes when you download these things, people who design them, design them without conscience, and then they leave you struggling. Yeah, that's the downside of getting works that people, have done. Just take your time to edit them. So when I move this point, okay, you could see that the color follows, because this is how this person designed this particular object, right? I could always move the anchor points, okay, to resize my object, click, drag to the side. You see that now this is another, this guy intended this to be the outline, I guess. Okay. So the whole idea is that anchor points can always be selected and reshaped. Anchor points can always be selected and reshaped. I'm undoing everything I've done. So you can always do that with your direct selection tool. Direct selection tool. Select this, for example. There are some other vectors you would download that would respond differently from how this one responds, right? So I have all these anchor points. Maybe I don't like how this is. I could just maybe, okay, I want this color to just be off the white. I could just drag it like that. I mean, this is how this person designed this. So basically, We're working with this design. And all that. I don't want this to just be a time waster for us, right? So the next thing I want to show you is, for example, middle Wisconsin. I could double click. So what I did, maybe with any tool, any selection tool, maybe this direct selection tool or this one, just double click, 1, 2, then you can edit the text. Okay, you could see the text editor blinking. So I could say, from here, I could say, Lagos. Okay. I could say metropolitan. Okay. Now the two words, they are in one particular text box. Now, if I want this Lagos to be bigger, for example, I can't just select Lagos like that and make it bigger. So I have to use the text editor tool. That's type 2 for typing, type. That's what you see here. I select that, then I drag across, then I go to where you have this number here, font size. By the way, this panel is called the attributes panel. Attributes. Of any tool you select has its attributes. Any tool you select here will change these attributes here. So 21 points or 21 pixels for the font size for Lagos selected. I could take that to 60 or 48. Okay. Or I could just put my mouse here and scroll down. It follows the scroll of my mouse and gets to the size that I want. So you have this. Okay. Now, let's say, oh, the G is standing on the P. I want to give it some space. Simple. Select the text, right? You have the character panel options here. When you click on that, you see the character panel options. You also have the paragraph panel options, still on the attributes panel. Okay, now if you notice, I selected the text using my selector tool, not my type tool. Okay, now because it's a text, it will still activate the text editor, attributes. I click on character panel, and then yes, the link will be sent to the WhatsApp. I think Tayo will attend to that. The link I shared can be sent to the WhatsApp group. Tayo, please.
I'll take a look.
Okay. So now we have what we call the leading. We have what they call the kerning. Sorry, something distracts me here. Okay. So we have what we call the leading. Now in your if you maybe attend the basic graphic design class, I don't know if you're interested in that, you could also apply for that. Then we'll take you on a full course on Adobe Illustrator, right? But I'm just showing you this just to be able to understand the workflow for that. take you on full design course, make you understand certain elements of design or aspects of design, graphics design. Graphics design, for those who want to really master motion graphics, you hear graphics in motion graphics. So there's graphics and there's making the graphics to move as graphics in motion. So you understand graphics first before you go into motion graphics properly, right? So, like I said, this is quite a streamlined for people who are into engineering, which is why we're doing this. Yes, good evening.
Okay, you said that if you want to understand motion graphics, you have to understand graphics first. Before, how about those of some of us that do not have pre-knowledge of?
Oh, you didn't get me right. You didn't get me right. So I said, right,
Yes.
if you want to be a proper motion graphics artist, now, when I say motion graphics artist, I'm talking in terms of, outside of engineering, right? Because, I mean, this program is supposed to be motion graphics for civil engineers, right?
Yes, yes.
So I would assume, right, that there are other softwares that, you make use of in your industry, right?
Yes,
For
sir.
example, you make use of live photos. For example, you make use of maybe softwares where you could export pictures from, right? You make use of softwares where you could export vector files from, and you want to just have some little editing, So that's why I'm just using this software to show you how you could maybe use this Adobe Illustrator and then edit one or two things before you take it into After Effects, right?
Okay,
So
sir. And I
when
want
I
to
started off,
if I have a PDF file, can I
yes.
import it into this? I mean, export or import into this Adobe Illustrator and edit it like this?
Now, yes is the answer. If the Illustrator file was saved and preserve editing capabilities. Now, this is how it works. And let me just quickly show you that. So as you can see my screen, so if I say file and I say save as, okay. Now I want to save this file. Let me just call it map edited, for example. So I can save as Adobe Illustrator file if I want. I could just click and say save as Adobe PDF, right? I click on that, I say save. It will ask me a question, a dialog box. Now you see this preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. Preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. If this was unchecked like this and the PDF is saved like this, you cannot edit it easily. But whenever anybody saves that, most times they always turn this on, right? When I save it like that, say save PDF. Now, if I send this PDF to you, if you right-click on that PDF, and then you have Adobe Illustrator installed on your system, if you right-click on that PDF, it will show you open with, like, this is it, right? If I click, I could say open with, okay? Right-click, open with Adobe Illustrator, and it will open. Do you see that?
Let me try it.
Yes. So, now, Lagos Metropolitan, there are some design attributes under character here. So here you have the character font type, font style. I could click this down and then check all the font style I want to use from A to Z. You can install more fonts, more fonts that you like, to download from anywhere online. You have lots of fonts. Let's say I want to change more cartoony. I used to like this color what's that? Color, yes. I used to like this particular font. So I could change that in the font style. I could change the boldness, regular to light, bold. Okay. I could just push this when I click, you could see how the text separates. That's the leading. Okay, so I could also roll my mouse up, down on the number box. All right, I place my mouse on the number box there, roll my mouse down and up, just like the way it is in After Effects. Okay, you can do that as well. It's the same software. Now I could spread the letters apart. Okay, the V and A, its default is 0. When I increase this, you see the Lagos separating from each other, the letters rather. Okay, I have preset numbers here that I could use. It depends on what you want. Okay. This is like I mean, sometimes you don't just these are just very weird things to do anyways. Why would you want to do this kind of skill? So you most times would be making use of your leading. Okay, separating text top to bottom, keep everything as basic, except you want to experiment with that. You could turn everything to capital letters if you want, small capital letters, whatever you want to do, you could do here, right? We have paragraph and all that. Okay. So that's how you can edit your text. You can always select your text. This is your type 2. If you want to type something else, you just select your type 2, click anywhere within your screen, and then start typing. Okay, when you're done typing, you just see your cursor for typing blinking. You can always control, just like your normal typing, right? It's just basic like that. Space, you hit your enter key, it comes down. If you keep hitting enter, it keeps going down, just like a normal type would work on Microsoft Word and all that. When you're done, you go back to your selection tool. Something I'll advise is get used to shortcuts. Like shortcuts for selecting this tool is V, while this one is A. So it helps you to be able to select, go to the tools faster. So these are the 2 basic tools you're making use of. Other tools here, like maybe pen tool. I mean, we're not drawing anything. So if you want to understand full design, how to do graphics design, then we'll touch all this. But what you're making use of basically would be the selection tool, the text tool. Selection is for editing 1 or 2 things. If you want to draw, maybe with pen tool, for example, for those who know how to maybe draw one thing or the other, you just select it. It works basically like every other pen tool in any software that has to do with design or mapping or whatever. So I'll delete that. Maybe I just create a new layer here. So practically, if you want to create a new layer to work with, you can just come here and click create new layer. It's just at the bottom here. Create a new empty layer. So this layer is empty. You can see I select different layers, but I select this layer. This is where I want to work. I select that layer. Okay. And then I can just click, 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 click. Whatever I want to drag, I use this to trace somebody's face, for example. Okay, when I need to close this, I'll just come back to where I started from. Right, when I get back to where I started from, you see a sign will show at the bottom right of that pen cursor. There's a sign like O that will show. If you notice that, there's a tiny O that will show. It means close. Click on it, it closes. Okay, now I can go back to that. You see minus showing there. It means minus that point. When I click it, it goes away. If I come here, it shows minus. But if I go to a normal line where there is no dots, it shows plus, meaning I can add a point there. If I go out to the point, I can minus the point. I can minus this point. I can add the point again. When I'm done, I can edit with my direct selection tool. Select it, drag it down, and all that. So you want to get used to using the pen tool, you could do that. Delete. Interesting, right? So we have Lagos Metropolitan. So let's say I just like how these fonts are being used. High Road, High Road. you know, Century Avenue. Let's say this place would be Mushin Market. You know, maybe here's Ikeja Road or whatever, something like that. I could just come to this text, for example, and just click on it. When I double click on this text, you see the cursor blinking. Even though the text is kind of angled, I can still select, you know, however I want. Or I hold my Control A, it selects all the text for me, all the words, right? As long as my cursor is blinking, you see my cursor just behind L, blinking there, right? So when it's there, I can always do my Control A. It selects all the words. I could just type Mushin Market. Okay. Just basic editing. Now, it's not a must to type in text here, except you want to. You could always also do text inside of After Effects. We'll look at it as well as time goes on. So you could do that to any of these. Now, if you want to separate this text from the art itself, from the map itself, you have to come into the layers to see how these layers are arranged. So I come to this eye, visibility, and I turn off the eye, I check which one disappears. So if you see, the diversity road disappears when I do this, okay? Another one, diversity road, the second one, okay? Another one, that's the high road, the one at the bottom left there, high road, disappearing, appearing. Now, this shows me that everything is inside a group here, okay? Everything's like, so if I turn off the group, which is this, on the layers panel on the right, I turn it off, all the names of the streets goes off, turn it back on. But I don't want it to be in a group, because if I import this into After Effects will see this as one layer. It won't separate it as group. So how do we get this separate? Easy, right? The fastest way, the best way that I use now is I just select the group itself. This is a group. I just select the group itself, not the objects inside of the group, but the group itself. I go to, there's this 3 lines at the top right of the Illustrator, you know, layers panel. Click on it, and then you see there's an option called Release to Layers for Sequence. Release to Layers for Sequence. So I click on that. Everything comes out as layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, blah, blah, blah. So according to how these layers have been numbered, it's just, so we already have layer 4 here. So you give me layer 5, 6, 7. Now I can select from 5 down to 12 and drag them out of the group. By the way, when you see a line like that, it means it's coming out. When you see it like this, it means it's not coming out. You're dropping it into a group. Okay, I wish I could, I don't know if you could see my screen. You will see how when I select all these layers, so how do I select everything? You could click, hold down your shift on your keyboard, go to 12 and click on 12. Everything selects from the top to bottom. So shift select, it works for every other software, not just Adobe Illustrator. So if you're a software user, you must have tried it. It works for even Microsoft Word, right? Hold your shift. These are keyboard commands. Okay. Now when I click and drag this, a hand grabbing like a sand, you know, when you grab sand, that shape of hand like a fist will show, means I'm grabbing some things. Okay, you could see that. So I can drag it out, and everything is out of the layer. So this is the empty layer. I can see it's empty. There's no drop down arrow here anymore. It means it's empty. All right, so let me undo that. Undo everything, undo. Okay, back to where we were. So we have that diversity street. Now all these layers have been named. Okay, when you do this thing I showed you by selecting the group, it changes all the names to layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. Now, I always use that option, this particular option. I always use this option when it's more complex. But right now, it doesn't seem complex because everything has been named accordingly. This person even tried. There are some designs you download that will give you headache. So I select all these layers like this. I drag everything out because everything is already layered. Okay, everything is already layered like that. So you see everything comes out. Now remember that everything we're doing, you know, all the designs, they are still inside a major group, which is the objects. I want to get everything out into different layers because if I import this particular file into After Effects like this, it will come in with 3 layers, which is layer 1, empty layer. It's coming with this second layer, layer 2, which is objects, and layer 3, background. It's useless for me to work with if I want to have a more dynamic, you know, animation. But if you want to work with this like this, you can just do that. No problem. But I want to have it a bit more dynamic, so I'll just maybe delete this background. I don't need that. Just drag it to the dustbin here at the bottom. It goes away. Layer 3 is empty. I don't need that. I could just drag it to the dustbin, or I could just hit my delete and say, okay, it doesn't need to say yes. When there's an object there to ask you to say yes or no, just a precaution to make sure that you didn't hit the delete by accident. So it's an empty layer, you hit delete, it just goes away. Drop down, you see all this, you know, madness going on. Select everything here, just drag it out, okay, out of the whole group. Oh, they are refusing to come out. Okay. So now, sometimes you encounter this where you're trying to drag maybe these objects out of this group. Remember I told you when you see a line, that means you can drag out. But I see no line here. It's not showing me any line. Okay. Try to drag it out. It's showing me the cancel, meaning I cannot drag it out because of the nature of how this was created. So at this stage, I'll resort to my normal option, which is to release into layers. Now, when I release into layers, right, it comes like this. The Lagos Metropolitan is inside a single group on its own, and every other text. Now I can drag them out like that. So now you see I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different layers. If I import these into After Effects, it will see it as 10 layers. The object is at the top, drag it to the bottom, so all the text are at the top. So there you have it. Now, I mean, when you're done with your editing, when you're done with everything, make sure you go to File. Don't save, just go to Save As, because you're going to save it as a new document to work with, right? You're going to save it as a new document to work with. And now my previously selected file type is PDF, so I'm changing back to Adobe Illustrator, map edited, and I say save, it saves it. Create PDF compatible file, yeah. Okay, so I'm saving as Adobe Illustrator. You can save as PDF if you, if you prefer to work with PDF, but working with PDF instead of After Effects can be difficult. It's better to work with Adobe Illustrator AI files. All right, so now we head to After Effects. I'll show you how to import this file. Now, remember, let me show you one more thing here. Somebody mentioned it, was it last week? And I got to, I think I just overheard it or something. So let me just quickly show you something.
Ask a question, please.
Okay, fire on, please.
Okay, I want to ask that, okay, you know, this Metropolitan is a map, and this map has different layers.
Okay.
It has different. If in case if you want to on this Adobe Illustrator, if you want to draw another line on that PDF, maybe you want to show, you want to put your legend, you want to put your, is it possible on that? Can you put it on that? Can you do it on that PDF on that document?
This
Can you put
Adobe
another line?
Illustrator here.
Maybe showing something red on that line. We are having white, all these white colors. In case we want to put any other maybe red colors somewhere along, apart from the one we are having here, you want to introduce another line.
Yes, you can.
Is it possible?
Yes, you can. Yes,
Where
you
can we
can.
go?
So I'll quickly show you that, right? I'll quickly show you that. Now, I didn't want to go into doing that yet. I already shown you how you could do that using the pen tool, right? But I'm going to show you how to further use the pen tool to get that done, right?
Okay.
I wanted to actually show you that in After Effects, because in After Effects, we're going to use the pen tool at some point. I'll show you how to animate, tracking lines and all that, but it's better done inside of After Effects.
Okay.
Could you mute your mic, please? Because I'm having this feedback. Yes. Okay, so to do that, yeah, you just create a new layer. Just create new layer. You can see that when you hover around it, it just shows you the name. Create new layer. This bottom right here. Create new layer. So I click on create new layer. I have an empty layer here. How do I know? I can't see the drop down arrow. All these other ones I have a drop down arrow, like the greater than sign. The greater than sign. So it's just there. Now you have empty layer. On this empty layer, you can do whatever you want to do. So let's use the pen tool, for example. Before we use the pen tool, let me show you something that's similar to the pen tool, which is the line segment tool. So very simple. Just for creating line, click and drag. Okay. You can hold down shift to get a perfect straight line. When I hold down shift, I have a perfect straight line. So that's a perfect straight line. Now, when you draw this line, always watch out for, before you click any other thing. So after you draw this line, before you click your screen again, let your eyes go to this area where you have this red line cutting diagonally. It means there is no color, there is no outline. But this is a line and we cannot use a fill color. Fill color is like when you have a rectangle, the color fills in, within. Then we have the outline. So what we want to do is to have an outline color. So we click on it. You see that becomes, that's a stroke. Okay, it's in there, stroke. Now here we have the fill. Whichever one you click comes to the front. Right, so I click on stroke, comes forward. And then we have three basic colors here. So I click on this black color. When I click on black color, you see it turns black. The red diagonal line goes away and it turns black. That means this stroke now has a color black stroke. How do you see that? You can come to your stroke panel here. You can either click on this, or for me, I don't really use matter in clicking here, except I want extra options. But I could easily scale the stroke width or width anyways. Now, 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. So the more I scale it up, you see how thick the line becomes. Okay. So I can always draw this line like that. It's a perfect straight line. Perfect straight line when you go down your shift. Okay, something very interesting also, if you want extra options. So let me leave this at 40. Now, this line looks flat, cut at the beginning, cut at the end. But if I want it to be curved out to have more smoothness, I still have this selected. Let's say, for example, by mistake, you unselect it and there's nothing selected again. But always come here and just click on it and it's still selected, and the options will appear. So anything you do, anything you select, attributes always appear at the top, just directly below the menu bar. Okay, all these attributes. So every tool I select has its attributes. I select rectangle tool, I select line tool, the attributes changes accordingly. So I select eraser tool, changes, select maybe this perspective. Okay, there are different tools you could use for design. Right, so this is like more of a 3D thing. Okay, it's more of a 3D. So this is like full design course, right? Going to all these other tools can get things very complicated with this class, right? So let's just continue what we're doing. We have a straight line here. Go to stroke. The stroke weight is 40, like we already done outside. And for the cap, you curve it out. You can see how it becomes smooth. Okay. And 3 different options. You curve out. Now, for corners, it should be sharp edged or curved edge, as round join or meter join. I was called a sharp edge or rounded edge. Now, this one is like bevel edge. Okay. We have other options here. If you want it to be dashed lines, to look like they are dotted lines, you do that. Increase the pixels to make it look like it's dotted. Okay. Instead of After Effects, we're going to animate something like this. You know, you see everything. So we have dotted lines. You can see how it appears. So these are more options for your, line. Turn the dashed line off, goes off. Now, let me show you a more. So this is like 2-point line. So we have 2 points. Now remember, you cannot edit any of these points except you go to your direct selection tool. It's for selecting points and moving it. Okay. So you see that. Just move any of the anchor points. Select this and delete. Now, this is for creating perfect line. This is for creating shape rectangle too. Now, if you right click, more option comes out. Rectangle to round corner, whatever, ellipse to, pentagon to star to, and all that. Most likely we don't use all these things, but I hardly use them, except in very rare cases. Rectangle to draw your rectangle. Okay. Now you have an option for fill. There's no fill color there. I only have my outline there at 40. So my previous setting, can always change your previous setting. Let's say we have it at, let's just leave at 40, so it's very visible. Now I have options to fill. I could just click on fill, double click, choose red. You can see red filling comes in. So I could always change the color. That's what I want. So maybe green, bright green. It fills it. If I do not want any stroke, any outline, just go to the outline, click on it. Yeah. It comes to the top. Then I click on X, none. You see that? It just cancels it out. You only have the fill color, which is lemon green. That's the fill color. You can always go back to your selection tool and, move that to wherever you want to move it to. Remember, you can always scale down. Always watch your cursor change. Okay. By the way, how to zoom in? The same thing with After Effects. Hold your Alt and then roll your mouse button in and out. Wherever you put your mouse, that's where it rolls into. Okay. Wherever you take your mouse to, if I take my mouse to the extreme left, it rolls in there. Okay. So that's how it works in After Effects as well, even on the timeline. I go to Century Avenue, my mouse, I roll in there, it goes in there. So that's how to use that. Always hold your Alt for zooming in and zooming out. That's a fast way to zoom in, zoom out. So if you want to function like an amateur, you can always go to your zoom, tool, select, and then you zoom in just by clicking and dragging, left and right. Very simple, without stress. I like my Alt, roll my mouse button. Easy. All right. So I delete that shape. Let's come to the pen tool. If I want to trace this road, for example, and make it a different color, remember I have a default setting here for my stroke. If I click here, okay, remember you have to make sure you're on the right layer so that you don't regret at the end. Oh, I drew this in a different layer. But if you do that anyways, there are ways you can always create a new layer afterwards, drop down, pick that particular layer where you drew that object and drag it out into the new layer you created. Like, for example, I can take this Lagos Metropolitan and drag it into layer 12. Boom. It jumps into that, abandons layer 2. Now it's in layer 12. Right there. So you can always do that even if you make that mistake. So select my layer 12. I can click here, right? You see, I'm not dragging them. Just click and the guy follows me, right? Every point, everywhere I want the point to be, the anchor point, I click here. Maybe I'm trying to track a road. Okay, just follow that. You zoom in with my Alt and roll my mouse button. It doesn't cut off what I'm editing, right? It doesn't cut off what I'm drawing. Let's continue. Let's say I want it to stop here. If I wanted to stop here, if I wanted to stop here, you can see this guy is just following me around like a fly. How do you do that? How do you stop it? Very easy. Hold down your control. When you hold down your control, it automatically, can you see? I release my mouse, my keyboard. I'm not holding anything right now. You can see that my pen tool is still activated. I cannot stop this drawing I'm doing, but this is where I want to stop my drawing. But it's looking impossible. Even if I click here, at that point to follow me, it will keep following me until I come back to my beginning, when it shows me the 0 at the bottom right of my, pencil. So I want to do this, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. I'm still back here. As an amateur, I struggle with this. I was like, what's going on? So very simple. Just hold down your control on your keyboard. It activates your selection tool. Then with that, you just click anywhere. Make sure you're holding your control. Okay, I'm just tapping on my control. That's why you see that. Then I click on anywhere within my screen. Boom. And I'm free. Freedom. Okay. So now I can go back to that guy that gave me headache. That refused to leave me alone. Let's select the guy. Now I have the option to, go to the stroke, double click, give it any color of my choice, maybe red, maybe lemon green, whatever. You have different color shades here and different values of that same color. Maybe lemon green. Okay, right? Go to the fill. I don't want the fill. I select the fill, I cut it off, and it goes up. Now I have lemon green here, but the size is very thin. Remember, we can always increase our stroke by scrolling here and rolling up. Okay. My direct selection tool. By the way, I just hit on my A. I mean, my muscle memory will just take me to hit A. So please get used to the shortcuts to help. So there you have it. You can always use red color if you want. Select that road, double click, go to red, bright red. And there you have the red. Use it to track the road. Okay, you see that this line is above the high road text written there. Just rearrange your layers. So find where this one is. This guy is at the bottom here. We just bring this layer 12 under that one. There you have it. It's under. So it's about arrangement of layers based on what you see. So I hope that answers your question. Mr. Ayo, you there?
Yes, you are correct. I think you have seen, I think I can do it. Yes, but if you want to put title on that map, you can put title outside the map, maybe on top of
yeah, definitely. Like this Lagos Metropolitan. That was what I edited initially.
Okay.
Yes. If you don't like this font, you can always change the fonts. I mean, this font doesn't really work for this. So let me go back to my Montserrat. Thick font. Just change everything. So I can just select only this one and change it back to maybe light. Okay, let's design Lagos Metropolitan. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm going to delete this one, this red line that I drew. Now, you can always draw the red line or, I mean, whatever you want to draw. I'll show you how to do that. Now, we're going to take this to After Effects, right? So let me just save this to update what I've done. Okay, there's something I wanted to show you for you to be aware of when your file saves. So if I move this Lagos away from here now, and then you look at this particular file here, mapedited.ai, there's a tiny star at the top of the AI, a tiny asterisk star there. It means you haven't saved. Now, you will notice that this at 66.67%, that at there would move closer to the AI when I hit my save. That means that asterisk star has disappeared. Right? So when I say Control S, save, you see that it just vanishes. So the star is no longer there. It means my file is saved. Just an indicator for saving your file. So I'm done with that. Goes my After Effects. How do I import this file? After editing everything I've done, you can even go to, say, your Google Map, for example. You want to pull out some pictures from Google Map. Go to your Google Map. So on your Google Map here, you can take as many screenshots. For those of you that know how to take screenshots, just simple on your laptop. You know how to take screenshots now. So function, print screen or whatever, when you take that screen. So let me just do mine. Mine goes like function print screen, and then it shows me this. I could just screen grab any area I want. Okay, maybe like this. By the way, I could keep screen grabbing as much as I want. I could scroll to the right, screen grab this. Okay, so let me just do that. For example, just create a new file. So how do you create a new file? Just control file, new, and that's it. So let me do that again. File, new project. So I look for 1920 by 1080. Okay. 1920 by 1080, that's normal full HD. Okay. My artboard has to be 1. I don't want 7. It has to be landscape. The orientation, just hit create. So I have full HD here. So what I screen grab, Control V, Control paste. It pastes the Google Map here. Now here is the last place I screen grab. I can go back and then screen grab. Okay, that's the line here. You just drag this to this point and still do another screen grab. I mean, I could decide to screen grab as far as I want on Google Map and always go back to my software. When I paste this, I could see the similarities here. All right, so all I can do is just move the map to actually join the other one. Okay, so I think it should be around. So I'll find the link points, which should be this. I can use my arrow keys on my keyboard to move it perfectly. Now you can see Promasido Nigeria Limited, Promasido Nigeria Head Office. So now I have a longer map. Okay, you see that as, Sony markets and all that. You see the separation. Yes, if I move it away, you see the difference. Okay, markets, this one is rect. So the R is where it links, right? So I bring it back to be seamless. Now I could take as many shots as I want, bring it here and combine all the maps. Okay, and it becomes a very large map. Okay, it becomes a very large map. Take your time to do that. Just showing you how to do it. Google Map and all that. You could do that and then import it into After Effects and do whatever you want to do on it based on the motion graphics thing you want to do. So I just wanted to show you that, just as a so how do you import the Illustrator file? Just double click on the project panel around this area. That's the fastest way I import. Or you right click and say import file and all that. But this is the fastest way. Just double click All right. Taking time to load. So now pay attention, please. So map edited. That's what we're trying to import. That's the AI file. There are different ways you can import this particular file. If I import as a footage, it comes in as one complete design, flat. I'll show you how it looks. So let me just say footage. There are other options here, by the way, but I'll show you how they look. Footage, I say import. Now you see options. Merge layers into one, as option 1, or choose what layer you want to import. So I say choose layer, the layer I want to import. Now you see all the layers I worked with, including that map layer. So this is the background layer, the map itself. So if I want to import only the map, I could just select this object and say okay, imports only that as a flat image, right? Or I could change, no, let me not go there yet. I could change composition here, but let's leave that. So I could merge the layers, everything will merge into one. So I'll bring that in, right? I can drag it into a new composition. You see it there. So everything is like one image, okay? One image. I can't really do anything with this because it's flat image. I mean, I can do something with it, but I mean, I can't be very dynamic with this, except I just want to just show this map, you know, maybe use it for some showing on screen and then adding some little more, you know, lines to it and all that from inside of here. That's fine, that's okay, but I don't want this. So I'm going to delete these two particular imported files by hitting my delete on my keyboard and say yes, everything goes out. Now, how you want to import files like this that have multiple layers that you want to make use of, exactly how you created it in Adobe Illustrator, is to select this footage and say composition, retain layer sizes. Okay, import as a composition, but retain the layer sizes. Now, if you import as a composition without retaining layer sizes, even the tiniest design, if it's very small, the tiniest design will carry the shape of the whole composition, right? So very rare cases you might need that kind of option. I mean, why would you want maybe a tiny dot to have the scale to be the whole size of the composition? I'd rather that the tiny dots have the scale around it to scale the size, you know, as I want, exactly how it is inside of Adobe Illustrator. So I select retain layer sizes and I say import. Now it will come in as a composition icon. When it comes in as a composition, it also imports a folder alongside the composition, which has a dimension of 750 by 500. I will come to that shortly. 750 by 500 is less than full HD. So this is more like HD. It might appear very pixelated if you want to do a high resolution kind of video that's very sharp. You need something at least from 2K, 2000 upwards, 3000, appear very sharp. Okay, so when you import the composition, it comes in alongside this folder that carries all the layers. Okay, all the layers are right there. And bottom there, you have the object layer. So how do you edit? Just double click on this composition and it will open it like this. And then you can start to do whatever you want to do. You can see all my multiple layers, exactly how it was instead of After Effects. Okay, this is my Lagos Metropolitan font text. Okay. I have this, look, you can see it's a bit pixelated, right? In fact, not even a bit. Now, this is because of the resolution I set for my composition panel. So my composition panel, here we have resolution / down, sample, factor, pop-up, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it's just your resolution. Okay, it's set to half. You could always set it to full resolution, okay, becomes sharper. Okay, like I said, it is 750 by 500. So it's not very sharp. It's not very sharp. 750 by 500, not very sharp. But this is the full resolution for the After Effects. Now, you might find this very handy when you're working with a very heavy file. So when I'm working for sometimes, and I have very heavy files, I take this down to even the third or quarter resolution. So it's very easy for me to work, right? Because I have very high quality images. I drop the resolution. It's still very clear to me. I can still see what I'm doing. But at the same time, I also can render fast. I can animate faster because when you're animating After Effects, this green line here that you see is actually the render, right? When your files are very heavy, you start to see red lines, start to see yellow lines. It means the render is, After Effects work with your RAM on your laptop. So if you don't have enough RAM, get more RAM, get a laptop that has a better graphics card to be able to handle that graphics, all right, instead of After Effects. So if you have a better RAM, this thing would always render into green faster. So let's go back to full resolution. You can also set it to auto, right? There's a kind of now this auto that I set would then set me maybe to half or to quarter. So when you see that this is happening, you can okay, I think I was lost for a bit there. Go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so as I was saying, whatever you go back to Illustrator to edit would update inside of After Effects. So let's look at this very critically. Come back to your layers panel. By the way, you have all your different panels at this right side for your layers, for your color guide, color palettes, and all that, Pathfinder, align, and all that, transform, transparency setting, gradient, and all that, So basically, this is your layers. You see something like two squares stacked upon each other. So that's the layers panel. All right, I want to scale this size. So I go to my artboard, which is this, my artboard. Now this artboard, I just click on this setting, this icon just beside the artboard. So we have the layers panel, we have the assets export, we have the artboards. The artboard, just click on this icon here beside the artboard, and it pops this dialog box open. Here we could change the setting. We could decide to. So what I do most times is when I see that this design is equal, I always turn on the constraint proportions. Constrain proportions. Okay, I think it's still being recorded, yes. Tara, please, could you confirm that, please?
Yeah, it's still being recorded. Did you hear me?
Constraint proportions. Yes, yes, yes. Constraint proportions is similar to that chain I initially showed you, right? Instead of After Effects, that chain that links two different settings. So when you constrain proportions, it links these two. So for example, this is 750. If I change this to say 3K, I like to work with 3000, right? Without clicking OK, let me just click on height. You see the 500 will change. Can you see? To 2000. So mathematically, the average to just balance it equally. Okay. Now, how do you know? When I hit on OK, the artboard goes bigger, and then the artboard goes bigger, and then I could just select all the layers. Okay, Control All, Control A. Can you see everything has colors on the edges? It means everything is selected. So once I select all of this, I can just hit on this and select that, hit on this, select this. So that, by the way, that's how to select particular objects like that. Okay. Indicates selected art. So you click on this, and the art that's selected, it just shows you. And it has basically different colors, okay? Color keys, you know, for your visual aid to know what and what is what. So I could just click and drag around everything and select everything, or I could just say Control A, everything is selected. Make sure I have my selection tool V. I hold diagonally, not on the side. If not, I will scale like this, and I don't want that. Make sure you hold diagonally like this, not at the top. If not, I scale like this. Definitely do not want that as well. So going to scale diagonally. Now, when you're scaling diagonally, remember it goes both ways. How do you get it corrected? Make sure you hold down your shift. The shift is your best friend. So I hold down my shift, I scale, gets to the end here, come back here, hold down my shift while I drag, gets to the end. You could see that, you know, the size remains equal even after scaling equally diagonally, right? Because I used the constraint proportions to get the perfect artboard scaling size. So the artboard will increase, then I can then scale my object. Now this object is way bigger than it was before. When I save this, watch what happens in After Effects. When I save this, okay, I go back to After Effects, just watch, it will update by itself. Boom, there you have it. So everything is scattered because everything has increased in size, blowing out of proportion. Now, this is a typical example of a disaster, right? So you want to, because imagine you have about 100 layers here, because there's a level you start working with, you have 100 layers, right? Maybe on average 10 to 20 layers. Do you expect me to start to, let me say, first off, remember that we imported with the previous dimension, which is 750 by 500. After Effects, we will not update this dimension for you, even if you've changed it from that to 3000 by 2000 inside of Adobe Illustrator. After Effects will not update that for you. You update it by yourself. I'll show you how to do that. Composition, because right now we have this composition open, which is you know, the map edited composition as map edited. Go to composition, we go to, sorry, hold on. Composition, and then composition settings. Right, I made sure I had to select my composition panel first. I think you can even right click on the composition here and say composition settings, right? So you see the composition with a different logo. composition settings. So to avoid confusion, just select your composition panel here, go to composition, and say composition settings. Then here you manually type in your, I could also lock my aspect ratio here. It's the same thing as constraint. So lock aspect ratio, can lock that. It's the same thing as saying constraint. Just like in Adobe Illustrator, the artboard, you click on this icon here, it shows you constraint proportions. Okay, it's exactly the same with lock aspect ratio in After Effects. So I come here, I type 3000. Automatically height becomes 2000. You see, it's always mathematically correct. And then I hit my OK to update the size of my comp. Now you see, it's bigger. Although, because of the previous positions of everything here, it carries that same previous positions into After Effects and stays there. It doesn't update the position of this Lagos Metropolitan, for example. It doesn't update the position to this point or any of this. So you manually have to actually drag different things to different positions, and it takes time. If you have 100 layers, you have to be doing one by one. Now, the best way to do it is make sure you have your size done first before importing. If you import, you've done your animation, you see, oh, it's not, you will quickly recognize that the thing is not sharp enough. Best option, just delete everything. Just delete your map, edited composition, and the layers that you imported together. You can hit your delete button at the bottom here. Yes, or you just hit your delete on your keyboard. So I hit delete, now it deletes, or you just hit your delete on your keyboard. It still shows you the same option. You hit delete. Re-import that same file. Double click, select, footage, composition, retain layer sizes. Boom, everything comes inside. Double click to open this composition. Open this composition. So everything comes with the new arrangement and new size. So even though my resolution is now automatic, like I set it initially, now the auto resolution takes me to the lowest, which is quarter. Even now, right? That means this image is quite sharp. So remember to always work with a larger dimension. I like to work with 2K, 3K upwards. Nothing less than 1000 for any reason. Except maybe, I don't know, but make sure that your design dimension always goes like 2K, 3K. This much, right? So at this stage, it's fine. I'm mostly working with 1920 by 1080, so I wouldn't have that to worry about. This is basically how you import that. This is basically how you import, and you can start working here, and doing all that, blah 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 blah. Right? I could decide to animate this, using the same animation settings that we talked about earlier. I have my drop-down box here, my drop-down arrow, sorry, the greater than on the left side. When I drop it down, I see my transformation or transform. I have my different options, my position, my scale, my rotation, and all that. Okay. So I can take my position, for example, maybe, let me reset this. Please watch me. I fit my screen. Let it fit like this. Now, let me zoom in. Like I use my Alt and my mouse roll button. Okay. I roll that. I want to move this position to the left a bit. I want this thing to animate from left to right and also have opacity. So I switch on my position and my opacity. So we have two keyframes here, like you can see. Let's zoom it a bit more. Okay, so this is the first position. On the maybe 10th frame, I want this to come to this position. Okay. And then on frame 0 again, let me take my opacity to 0. Click, I type in 0, enter, it disappears. When I come to the final stop, I can take my percentage up. By the way, you can also roll your mouse button, click and drag, like I said. Okay, you see the opacity coming down and going up. See how Lagos fades in and fades out. Okay, you can animate the fade in and fade out as well. So let me say I get it to 100. Now, this is what I have. Okay, that's quite fast. Okay, that's quite fast. I wanted to maybe last till like 20th second. Okay, or maybe 25. Sorry, 20th frame, 25 frame. We are still within 1 second. We're still within 1 second here. So this is 1 second of animation here. All right, so we're still within 1 second. This is 25 frames. So this thing should last maybe. Now you see, it went very slow. That's when it's rendering. Anything I do here, just watch this green line, for example, this green line here. When I move these keyframes, you see the green line starts to render, it starts to look like there's something blank there. When I hit my play, it starts to render, and then when it's done, my animation can play at its normal speed. So that's how the RAM render works. So the better your RAM, the better your speed of, working or animation. So it takes time to render, depending on how heavy your graphics is. You can see how slow it's moving. So when it's done, you can always play animation at normal speed now. Okay, so be aware of the RAM render. Okay, the last thing I would show you in this class is how to add another principle of animation called slow in, slow out. Slow in, slow out. That makes this magical. And we're going to touch the curves a little bit tonight. We're going into the curves. Okay, people are always scared of curves, but don't be. Very easy when you understand it. Now, watch me very closely, please. I want to add ease in and ease out to this. So because what you have here is just flat linear motion from left to right, very flat. How do I know it's very flat? On the timeline, just beside the time ruler, there is this graph editor here. Okay, that's the icon, graph editor. Just directly beside the time ruler, graph editor. You click on it. My keyframes are selected, right? You can see how flat they appear on the graph. You scale this up. They appear flat from left to right, flat, flat. Okay, this blue represents my opacity. You can see that in blue color highlighted here, while the pink represents my positioning. You can see that in pink highlighted here. Position, opacity, both of them selected. So I'll turn this graph editor off. We'll come back to our normal real life. That's spiritual realm. This is physical realm. I select all my keyframes like this. Okay. Now, on the keyboard, you have where you have the F9 at the top of your function keys. So you have F1, F2, F3, F4, down to F12. On your keyboard, you hit the F9. F9 changes the shape of the key frames to like an hourglass, which means time has been manipulated. Slow in, slow out has been activated. When you watch out, let me take this back to normal keyframe. Normal keyframe has this diamond shape. When you hit your F9, it changes to hourglass. How do you know that something has happened? Let's go back to the spiritual realm, which is the graph editor. Click on it. You can see this parabolic shape. The pink is the position. The blue is the opacity. So this is what you call ease in, ease out. Now, I mean, I wouldn't want to start showing you the speed selector, value graph. Not. Basically, this is what After Effects will show you for the graph editor. I don't want us to go too complex tonight. This helps you fine-tune the motion of what you're creating. So let me cut my animation here, for example. And just render that. Okay. This animates out better than, you can see the Lagos Metropolitan animating itself. So this animates out, the smoothness is better and all that, but there is a better way professionals do it, which is, watch me. I click on any empty space, make sure that I drag my box around these 2 keyframes here. When I do that, there is a control that pops out. Okay, there's this control around here. I can drag it forward and backward, make sure I come back to the flat line and drag it forward. Okay. Sometimes when you hold down your shift, it helps you to stay put on that line. You can see how it's affecting the motion. Okay. Now, if I drag these like this, what you're seeing here is the speed. So now it becomes very slow coming out and then starts to move faster as it gets to this point. Watch this. It moves very fast when it gets to this point and then slows down very quickly. Okay, now watch. Do you see that? Do you feel that? Okay. Very nice. Now, I might just say, I don't like that. I want it to come out very fast. Okay. So I select these 2 keyframes here. By the way, I'm selecting both of them together because I have both of them selected, which is the position and the opacity. All right, I could decide to edit the position alone. If I click on empty space, select only the, maybe I'll come back to the physical realm to select just position. Select the 2 keyframes like that, or you can always click on this, select all the keyframes. Position. Both keyframes will be selected. Go back here. Then you see only one parabolic line. But if I select opacity, you see both of them. So I want this thing to animate out fast and then slow down at the end. So it comes like this. Now watch the Lagos Metropolitan. Very nice looking animation. So your curves does the magic. It just creates a very distinct difference between what makes your animation very smooth or what makes it look very jaggy and very unprofessional. The curves does the magic. Okay. Now, if you can master curves when you're doing your animations or motion graphics or whatever that requires motion, if you can master your curves, then you're more or less like a professional. So this is what makes the difference. This is what makes the difference. Okay. A lot of people will just, move from left to right and that's the end. No, professionals go into the curve and begin to edit the curve. The different shapes of curves you can create to give you different variations of motion, right? But this is basic, very basic for anything animating. And so you see how I animated Lagos Metropolitan. Now I could do something like come back to turn off the graph editor. Let me try an extra thing here. Okay, let's draw this down a bit and then fit this. So let's say this object is on layer 10, which is the background. Okay, that's the background. I can decide to animate the opacity, which is T, shortcut T on my keyboard. Okay, it gets it out. That's T, shortcut T. I don't know, my system seems to be dragging somehow. T, okay, that's it. P is for position. P, position. S is for scale. Okay, R is for rotation. So that's the shortcuts to get any of these controls out as quickly as you want. But you could just drop down, go to your transform, drop it down, you see all the options at once. P for position, S for scale, R for rotation, T for opacity, not O, T, opacity. Okay, so I want to animate the opacity. So I'll put this, I turn on this time, put this, what I do is I just turn on the time, it's at 100, I can drag the keyframe of 100 further because that's what I want at the end. I turn this to 0, makes my animation very fast. So, select my 2 keyframes, hit my F9, and then I have that ease. I like to use ease in, ease out a lot. Okay. So we have something like this. So we have something just appear and then the Lagos animates out. Okay. Now, everything I've explained, any question? Is this something you can try out? And let's see how you go about it or how you fare with it by Thursday. Is that possible? Please, can you open your mics and just...
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, I was following the practice, and then, when you imported from Adobe Illustrator to After Effects, so you were able to change the resolution, So after that, but I'm thinking that apart from you doing the animation, if you change the resolution and maybe you do the rendering, so is it possible for us to print it like that? Can we print it without doing the animation? Can we save it and print it?
You mean when you import into After Effects to export a particular
Yes,
frame?
after we are done with the editing and everything in the Adobe Reader, Adobe Illustrator, and we are
Yes.
importing for the resolution. The resolution at the Adobe is not that clear. When we are bringing it here and we are trying to make it more clearer, and then so that they can see the everything. So is it possible for us to print it at that point without doing the animation? Can we save and print? Maybe you want to print it on A3, and all those larger sizes.
Okay, so I will explain it like this so that I don't get it wrong. After Effects is a video creation app. It's a video creation software. It's for videos, not for print. That's one. If you want to print at all, it will be from Adobe Illustrator itself. That's not After Effects, but the Illustrator for design. Okay, so this is Illustrator for design. Adobe Illustrator, you can see it's AI. It's for designs, right? Whereas for the After Effects, which is AE, this is a video creation software. You can see it has a timeline. It's a video creation software, so it's for exporting videos. It's for exporting videos. Okay, so that's to clear off that confusion. Now,
Okay.
if you want to print, you print from Adobe Illustrator. People who print from Adobe Illustrator know how to do that, but I mean, in Nigeria, they hardly want to print from Adobe Illustrator. They will mostly tell you just save it as PDF and then send to us, we'll print it out. So I think they make use of CorelDRAW for printing more. But when it comes to the graphics, industry, animation, and all that. This is what is standard. This is what's standard. It's just the Nigerian print markets that use CorelDRAW. But basically, you can save this, right, as a PDF and send for print. You save as PDF and send for print. You want to print it from your own printer at home. I think I haven't really printed from Adobe Illustrator. I have not had need for that. Just sent. So you could have print here. This is print, Control P. I don't have my printer attached. You could do your settings here, Microsoft Print to PDF. I don't know, maybe send to a particular printer or something. Print custom, print presets. Whatever you do your settings, how many copies, all that. You set all that, then you hit on print and it will print. Does that answer your question?
Okay, this is AE, right? Or AI?
AI. Adobe Illustrator, AI. This one.
Okay, it's AI.
Yes, so this is where you print from. You print from AI. You don't print from AE. You only print from AI, which is Adobe Illustrator. I know a lot of you might confuse AI. Sometimes I confuse it because it's an AI thing, artificial intelligence. It makes everything even more complex when you explain. You have to still use Adobe Illustrator. You have to say it, right? Just added some little stress to our lives. So from the AI, Adobe Illustrator, right? That's where you print. From AE, you don't print. You only render. You only render. As you export the video. That's what they call render. Exporting the playable video. You can watch it on your phone as MP4. We'll get there. I'll show you how to render and all that. Your render settings. Now, are you clear on that? You know how to change your resolution to make it sharper?
Yes.
Okay. So just to reiterate, it's just to click the artboard, click on your artboard icon here. Also, this dialog.
Where did you get this map? How did you get
Sorry?
How did you get the map?
Yes, I shared the link. I think it should be on the group now. I'm not sure. I'm not on the group. I shared
Google
it on the
Google Map.
No, not Google Map. On freepik.com. So I shared that same freepik.com with you last week. I showed you how you can easily get that. Let me get this off the way. Hide floating controls. Okay. So you have freepik.com, and there you have it. This is the map here. I downloaded it for free. All right. There are many other maps you could find. I just typed a city map. It has the different types of maps you could get, right? To do whatever you want to do your illustrations. Any of these things you download, remember they are vectors. And also there are premium files which carry the crown sign. So like this one, for example, carries the crown sign.
Okay, sir. I'm sorry for asking this. Are you saying that any map, you can get any map on that Freepik? Just type and you get it.
Random maps, just random.
Random map. Okay.
So it can't be a particular map. Like if you type map of Lagos, you can't find it here, right?
Yeah.
It's just a random map of nowhere.
Yeah.
Random map of nowhere.
Yeah, if I may
But
chime
you
in
can
here.
always go to Google Map, like how I showed you, go to Google Map, do the screenshots, and then use them. All right, so this Google Map, for example, I did these 2 screenshots, and I had to combine both of them. So there are 2 screenshots here, but I brought this one on the right, I joined it with one on the left to form the complete image. So you can see, for example, this is Taiwo Street. You can see here we only have the Wo Street. That's Taiwo. So what I did was I brought the brought it together, Taiwo, just to join two objects. So you could screenshot as many areas of the map as possible. Make sure that you know what you're actually doing. Make sure you know where your last screenshot was done. So you screenshot from there. Depending on how big you want your map to be, paste. You could paste and it becomes as large as this, right? And then you could import just one layer. Make sure it's on one layer. So you can see these two images are in one layer. So when you import it into After Effects, it appears as one layer. Then you could zoom in zoom in and animate whatever you want to animate. We'll get to that. I'll show you how to create, trim path animation to follow a particular route. Maybe you want something, an arrow to show a particular route. You want objects to pop up like a direction or something. And I'll show you how to do all that. Basically, we'll be working with every control you see. Anchor points, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Then at some stage, I'll show you how to apply some extra little effects. Okay, like transition, and all that. Yes. Any other question? Who has a question? Who has a question? Anybody? Or are we all good with the class? I mean, if you guys are okay with the class, you could just type yes, 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 on the chat. I mean, it's being recorded as well, so you could always revisit that. I hope others have not slept off. Oh. Are you guys sleeping?
Please unmute and say hello, hi, yes, so that we know we are not sleeping. Oh.
Okay.
Hello, can we get some
quiet.
feedback?
That's too quiet. Okay, I can see some feedbacks already. We don't have much time to practice right now, but if you practiced what we did last week, please try coming early from 7. Whoever comes in early, you will share your screen. We can practice together what I just did today. You could just make sure you have this downloaded, and all that, the map. I shared the link already in the chat, and I think it will be shared on the group as well. So when you have that downloaded, just the same thing that we've been doing from last week, working with your position. But now all I just added was, the F9. When you select all these keyframes, when you hit the F9, it turns into ease in, ease out. Then you have to click your graph editor, make sure on empty space like this, click, drag, and make sure you cover this tiny dots here, the tiny dots here. And then this is it's called, it's called Bezier handle. This is the handle, to stretch it out and all that. Okay. When you have that handle selected, you can always adjust the stretch, get your fine-tuned animation, fine-tuned motion. That's basically it. So Tayo, over to you, please.
Yeah, that's regarding the installer, right? The installation. Yeah. All right. I think Lekon, you or who was unable to install? I'll stop recording now.